A few months ago, we posted our first video showing how to spot fake enchanted cards. We received a lot of positive messages from the community who have successfully used this to avoid being tricked. However, recently, the manufacturer of those fake cards have improved their processes, and those are even harder to be spotted, making some of our previous tips no longer relevant. So let's update our list to help you identify the fakes and make sure you don't get fooled. We ordered a few fakes from a well-known online Chinese retailer and they just arrived in the mail. We analyzed these fake enchanted cards from Into the Inkland side by side with the original ones we pulled ourselves from packs. And doing so, we put together a list of 7 new ways to spot a fake card from a real one, updating our old tips and adding some new ones. Spoiler alert, the fakes have improved a lot from last time and fixed some of the previous ways to call them apart. Even official grading services have been fooled. As always, we recommend using all 7 methods while analyzing your card and never relying on a single method. And even then, always get a second opinion. A previously reliable method was by observing the artist's Quill Symbol up close. For that, we recommend using a magnifying glass or a pocket microscope to get a good look. We will list the ones we use in the description of this video. In the past, the symbol was noticeably different for fake cards, with the gap between the lines closing in towards the end, compared to the perfect parallel lines of the real card. The inner shape was also different, with the real cards resembling the lore symbol, while fake ones was a more diamond shape like. However, with the latest fakes on the market, the similarity between the icons has improved, making this process even harder for us to identify. They are almost identical now. Of course, with only limited samples, it is hard to compare them all. But this new version of the fake card seems to have the shape right, but the texture looks almost too grainy in comparison to the flatter version of the original. Even though this isn't the most reliable way to tell a fake card apart anymore, this is still a very useful method, especially if you're analyzing cards from sets 1 and 2. Firstly, real cards should have a matte finish on the black bar. For fake cards, the black bar is glossier. Secondly, fake cards would often have full foiling applied to the artist's name. Although some real cards could have foiling on the artist's name, the distinction here is that the foiling was on top of the actual white text, whereas fake cards lacked this. Usually this was the easiest method to raise a red flag when analyzing a card without any equipment or magnifying glasses. As you can see, for set 3, however, this is no longer the case. The latest batch of fake cards no longer have this licked foiling effect applied above it, being very close to the real deal with full white text. I wouldn't be surprised if these are applied to the previous cards from sets 1 and 2 as well, so be careful. Right now, as you can see, we have one of each of the different cards from set 1, 2 and 3, and going from sets 1 to 3, the foiling has been fully removed. One of the biggest giveaways of a fake card are the golden borders on the back of the card. If we compare a real and a fake card, you'll see that on a fake card the borders are thicker and less sharp. They are also brighter than in the originals. The good thing with this method is it is quite obvious to the naked eye and doesn't require special tools to see. It is also interesting to note that even PSA themselves have mentioned using this as one of their first methods when identifying fake cards during their grading process. Now let's take a closer look at cards' lore symbol. For this, we are using 2 different sets of cards. Let's start with Maleficent. The real lore symbol of a card should have very distinct and separated dots within the insides of the border, with a square grid pattern in the interior. For some cards, the separated dots are harder to read, but even so, when compared to the fake ones, the difference is quite clear. In fake cards, there is clearly no separation from the rest of the symbol, and the grid pattern is missing in the interior. When it comes to set 3 from our current samples, the lore symbol actually looks very different from the previous ones, real or fake, to the point that you can clearly see this difference with the naked eye. For set 3, the outline around the symbol is thicker and whiter. Finally, let's take a look up close to our last legacy, one of our cards' location. With the introduction of location cards for set 3, we spotted a brand new problem, mainly because the lore symbol for location cards are different than the ones for character cards. Unfortunately, from our recent analysis, the lore symbol between a fake and a real location card are extremely similar, making this almost impossible to tell them apart. So, when analyzing a location enchanted card, our recommendation is to rely on all the other tips from this video instead. When it comes to the enchanted rarity symbol, you should be able to spot the same grid-like pattern above the rainbow symbol for real cards, and the lines in the negative space are thicker. The fake cards have thinner and more defined lines. The symbol still tries to replicate the grid pattern, but instead, this looks more like small dots. The Rarity symbol in the fake cards also look flatter and less beveled, even though this varies between cards from sets 1, 2, and 3. Ink cost is our tip number 6. The ink cost remains one of the most reliable ways to confirm if a card is a fake. If you use a magnifier to look at the number, or simply just using your phone and zooming in very close, you'll notice that all the real cards have a grid pattern in the number, with horizontal and vertical lines going through it. This pattern might be harder to see on some cards than others, so you might need to try at different lights. But if a card is real, this pattern will be there. On the other hand, all of the fake cards so far have no grid pattern and are completely flat. You can also clearly see that the ink number for the real cards have a foiling effect applied on top of that, as you can see with the number 5, while the fake ones are completely white. This is something that we haven't noticed before, and it seems very relevant right now with the new sets and new reprints. Coloration and foil pattern was one of the least consistent methods of identifying a fake previously, but it's still something useful to check. In previous fakes, the foil pattern was noticeably different from real cards, both in its pattern, but also its vibrancy. However, for sets 3 fake enchanted cards, even though the foil pattern is closer to the real cards, where it is actually applied is not consistent. You can see on Maleficent that there is foiling on the fake that is not on the original. Coloration continues to be quite different between real and fake cards too. You can see that especially on the color band on the card, but in other places too. Take a look at Maleficent here. You also notice that when you see those two cards side by side, the difference is actually huge. But unfortunately, that won't be always the case when some people are just acquiring the card for the first time and they can easily be tricked by its fakeness. That being said, we see massive inconsistencies between print runs of real cards, with some cards being very different. So don't take this as a certainty. To recap, the 7 methods we use to tell apart real cards from fake ones are Quill Symbol, Artist Name and Black Bar, Golden borders on cards back, Lore Symbol, Rarity Symbol, Ink Cost, Coloration and Foil Pattern. I will reiterate that none of these tips should be used alone to identify a fake, and even grading experts can get it wrong, so definitely look for a second opinion. And there will always be inconsistencies between print runs of real cards too. As always, I hope these tips were helpful and you won't get caught out by fakes on the market. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a like and subscribe. Until next time, happy questing!